Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be looking at a brand new manga collection. It's volume one. I don't know how many volumes are going to be, but this is PTSD Radio by Masaaki Nakayama, I believe. I love the cover on this. I saw this just on the, books that are coming out next week on Diamond's next week previews thing. Cover caught my attention, looked up some art online, and, liked what I saw, so I grabbed it. But the really cool thing, I don't know how well this will come across on the camera, is there's a lot of embossing going on in here and then spot gloss as well. So it's a very tactile cover. Like even this is actually like feels like a mesh pattern on there, and that carries over onto the back too, where there's a lot of embossing going up and down. It feels like I can this little it feels like a screw bumps up, but then I can also get my fingers in the divots there. So it's a really tactile experience, which is cool. And it is a horror manga, so it's kind of unsettling to have like all these textures on your hands while you're reading it. And that just adds to the experience to me. So I think this is one of my favorite covers that I've seen. Just that use of texture and then the addition of the spot gloss. I just like there's spot gloss on this tongue and spot gloss on top of the embossed stuff. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's really creative. As is this book. This book is a really interesting book. It's one of the most complex stories I've ever read, I think, and I don't know what to make of it yet because there's other volumes, so the story's not finished, but the story's told in such a bizarre, chopped up, non-linear way. I had to read it twice to even feel like I could jump into doing a review. I wish that all the reviews I did, I could read it like three times, like read it once through, just absorb it, read it the second time, piece it together, and and read it a third time and make notes. I just don't have time for that. But I had to go back and do like a lot of extensive note taking to try and wrap my head around exactly what was going on in this. And I still don't know that I have total answers, but it doesn't bug me because it's there's a picture evolving in this work that I don't need know needs to be like every little bit sorted out. The It's a horror story, so the vibes coming through is what matters. I mean, look at these awesome illustrations here. Anyways, when I first started reading this, like I mean that's the first story, and then the next story is like that long, like 4 pages long. So it felt like a bunch of short stories. I thought, oh, okay, this is like a anthology, and they're just kind of collecting these horror stories. And then I got a bit of a way in, and it's like, wait a second. I feel like I've seen that character, or this theme has shown up before, like this obsession with hair has shown up, and these things start to build on top of each other. Where I realized that the PTSD radio of the title is kind of like there's a bunch of different stories going on, and you're just changing the dial back and forth between them, but they're also getting scrambled up in terms of time. They're getting scrambled up in terms of characters. A lot of the stories never name the character, so it's hard to connect them back and forth, but it has this really crazy like kaleidoscope fractal effect that is really compelling to me as a storytelling style. I think of Tommy Masturi's what he's doing with Future, and I think of what Tim Lane was doing with the more kaleidoscope approach. This like ramps that up even farther, I think. Anyways, this first story actually does wind up paying off a lot more later. It's one of the characters that I know I can come back to and have a name for. Other characters like the grandma, I'm not sure if it's the same grandma or if there's a family. I think there might be a grandma, a mom, and a daughter that it's within here, and they have this thing about cutting their hair at a certain time, but it's like not everyone's name, so it gets tough. What I was doing on the second read through is I was trying to track the names, and only a couple people get named enough that you can actually track them by name. The other thing I was doing that I haven't even noticed in my first read, because I tend to ignore this kind of stuff, like chapter one, I don't know. But I noticed on the second read through that it says 89.27 NHZ, so some kind of hertz, I'm assuming. Or it's obviously like the radio station, like that. The NHZ, I guess, is like the AM FM. I'm not sure in Japan. So I started seeing if like those were connected to characters, or if they're like if you got them all and you put them in order, of the numbering, because there's one where the number's just like one or two off, and it seems like a continuation of the next story, like if that would put them in sequence or something. But then there was things that just seemed like, no, that doesn't work. Like things in the past have a high number, and things that seem like they're contemporary have a low number. And the characters, it didn't seem to be connecting them to characters in the way I thought. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but I feel like if I knew what that is, it might help me organize the story a little bit more. But maybe not. I mean, who knows? That's just, me trying to find some kind of order in this, in a book that holds together within that lack of order, which is really interesting and surprising to me. But anyways, like the next story you go to is just like this guy with the fear of falling, and then all these hands come up to get him, and it seems totally disconnected from the girl worrying about grandma's telling her to cut her hair. And then you move to this character on a train and seeing this bald girl in the window, and she's not named though, so I'm just assuming this is Chifuyu, who's also not named in the first one but gets named later by a boyfriend of hers, Kieta, who's one of the other characters who recurs with the actual name. Also, too, I just don't think the characters' faces are distinctive enough that I could pick up on them, so that maybe caused problems. But anyways, we come back to the hair for this one, this bald lady, and so thematically you get shaving your head and stuff, but it still just seems like these one-offs. And then you get an entirely different character who's seen like this ghost in the bus, on the subway station, and here you get a sense of the artist just awesome, horror. The drawings that are horrific are truly horrific, and the monster designs are awesome. But this seems like, they're watching a train, and this girl is just in a train, but otherwise it doesn't seem connected. So I was really struggling with that aspect of the book. And then I got, excuse me. And then I got to this point in the story, and you see this woman with the shaved head, remembering when grandma was saying, cut your hair at a certain age, and it ties it back to the woman on the train story. So I was like, oh, okay, all of these pieces are going to come together as I read the book. And they kind of do. And then you get like this, which is like, okay, now you're reading the book, actually. This was all just preface. I thought, okay, we're going to lean into it. And then you just get this guy who walks out into the dark. Actually, she names him. I just saw that. Did she name him? No, I don't know. This might be the boyfriend, or it might not be. I'm not sure. So I don't know who this character is, but he walks outside and sees this. And so you're really having to do a lot of work, trying to figure out how all this ties together. But it's in a way that's compelling, not irritating. Here you get the Kieta character, and this is where you realize Chifuyu, and you tie her back to the woman on the train. He sees her with the shaved head and goes chasing after her. They have a talk. Really love this set of expressions here. Just totally distressed to acceptance to okay, we're gonna move forward with the conversation. I think that's really well done, and the artist will do that kind of three panel transition of emotions a number of times throughout the book. It's really, really successful. Then you get some other characters, Kiyoshi Hamaguchi and a guy named Nakata, who I didn't see show up anywhere. Well, they do, but I don't know how they relate to the other characters. But I love the intensity of this. He's smacking his hand. He's getting bullied, and he smacks his hand on the ground so hard he breaks it. And they're all like, nah, peace, this dude's crazy. So just those moments of horror are really well done. Something else that starts to recur that seems like a tangential, just, one-off story is these kids finding this box that has something terrible in it. I won't show what it is, but that seems to get tied into the story. And then you start learning about the Oguchi-sama, which this one character, who again has no name and I didn't see anywhere else in the book, is writing this Oguchi-sama all over the classroom there. You start to learn that the Oguchi-sama is like a god that this certain village worships, which is often represented by this statue, I think. Here we get the grandma talking about cutting hair and putting it in the box again, but calls the young girl Sato instead of the other mate, Chifuyu. So then I'm wondering if this is Chifuyu's great-grandmother talking to Chifuyu's mom, because at some point in the book she calls and says, "Hey mom, when did grandma tell you to cut your hair?" So I'm not sure. And the characters look similar, like flipping back and forth. Like the grandma looks similar, but not the same. Like she's got different hair and she's wearing older clothing. So that's why I think that's great grandma. And that is probably this character growing up. But none of that's made explicit, and you just kind of have to piece it together. There's another character that has a girlfriend that stares at him, and I couldn't figure out who she was supposed to be or who he was supposed to be. And they show up again, like that same character shows up. Well, we'll get to it. Shows up again in an interesting way. And then we jump back to, I believe this is post-World War II, like Japan's announcing that it's going to, abdicate, it's going to accept the provisions of United States, Great Britain, China, the Soviet Union. So this is post some war here. And then you get a real sense of like this box that they find with what's in it, which ties into the hair and grandmas and some other stuff. This is like they're putting their relatives in this box, like a memory box. And then they've put it in front of this, which I believe is the god they worship. This weird little like dick devil creature here sticking up out of the ground. And then crows get involved with it. Like crows seem to be part of this magic evil that's in the town and has to do with the hair. The hair seems to be like a curse of some sort that's gonna become a monster. Here's another just great monster drawing. Oh, those teeth are so gross. This artist is a really amazing artist. Now we're in the past, and this is like a door that had like a woman's face on it. And you get a bunch of people like remembering when they went and visited courtesans, and then they realize that that's tied to the door somehow. So you get a sense that you're looking back into the history of this village or this town that this stuff is going on in. And you also get this shift in art where all of a sudden the artist is doing this kind of calligraphic brushy stuff. So the artist like really kind of has a variety of what they can do. They just choose their moments, and I really enjoy that. It's really beautiful. It's a hell of a drawing there. And then there you go. Like that is just an amazing drawing. You get those little horns that are coming off of the statue. So it's like all these pieces definitely interconnect. This is a tightly interconnected, like fractal kaleidoscope, or it's like I said, it's a bunch of stories that are all interconnected, and you're flicking back and forth between the radio station, and it all starts to add up to something. And I feel like when I read volume 2, it will add up even more. And I'm just like curious the whole way along too. Like it really sucks me in and makes a mystery of it. So all of this, like, hey, this doesn't add up. That's not me complaining. I'm saying that somehow the artist made that work. The author made that work. And it's really surprising and really gratifying to me. And then we come back to Chifuyu again. And by now you have a lot more context for all the obsession with hair and shaving of the heads and history of relatives and stuff. And so like it's kind of starting to come together. Here she's talking to her mom and asking about when grandma did this. So I can start to say, oh, okay, this grandma's talking to kids, not the same one every time, but it's a lineage of a family potentially. All that's kind of left up to me. And then towards the end, we come back to like this staring girl, but again, there's not. That's it. Those are the two, and that ties her to this kind of voodoo doll that's part of it as well. But like that's why like I'm flipping through it, and I sound like I'm explaining like a weird fucked up dream to you that doesn't make any sense because all the pieces like loosely connect together. That's what this is like, and for horror, that is really, really effective because you're constantly unsettled. Things are constantly shifting. You're almost like scrambling to put the pieces together before the bad thing catches up to you. It's just a fascinating strategy to me. I'm really, really curious to see if, I don't know how many more volumes of this there are going to be, but by the end of it, if the global picture comes together enough that I could then come back to this one and see the whole thing. But I also think like if I get to the end and everything doesn't like all kind of untangle and retangle itself into a clear unit, I'm not going to be disgruntled about that in this case. I don't think, maybe it will get too weird and I won't appreciate it. But the effect, the visceral effect while reading that strategy creates is satisfying enough to me that I think I could ride that all to the way to the end and just be like, okay, this is kind of a open mess, and like that's terrifying. And I know what it's about, but I don't know, which is also terrifying. Like, I feel like I know all the details. I can put together the history of this town and their religious beliefs and the hair and all that, but it just, like, the connections between the characters never gel, and so it's just constantly shifting on you. And I really, 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 really like it. Obviously, I keep going on about it. So I can't recommend this enough. I'm really curious to hear what I really, really hope other people have read this and can comment and tell me like what they made of it, how they pieced it together, if they made any sense of these at the top, if that was helpful at all. Is there a mystery here that can be unpacked, or am I just seeking too hard and the author's denying me that? I don't know. I'd really love to hear your feedback. So definitely go buy this book, support this artist. I want to see more. Hopefully more gets translated. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and want to support us, the best way that you can do that is to support the books that Sean has coming out from Living the Line. We just put out, I'll release this video a couple days after this book, The Abolition of Man #1 by myself, published by Sean through Living the Line in collaboration with the Midjourney AI. We put this book together. It is out now, and we're really, really proud of this book, and we're really, really proud of this series. The series just keeps getting better and better as it's going. So if you didn't pre-order a copy of this, scramble to your comic shop and get yourself a copy now. See if they can order one for you before Diamond runs out, and then get yourself subscribed to get the rest of the series, because it just keeps getting better. We got better at using the AI technology. It turns into a story, and we're just really proud of this product. So that's a huge way to support the channel. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.